So there is an absolutely huge change coming to Warframe with the Duviri update. A way to earn a crazy amount of rewards, a kind of mini weekly battle pass if you will, which was shown off more in depth recently by Rebecca and Megan. Now we know that Duviri will have 3 different ways for you to play it after you have finished the quest. Lone Story, which has no side activities, the Duviri Experience, which is story and side activities like the fishing and so on, and then there is the Circuit. The Circuit is the endless Warframe only game mode, with game modes attached to it like Void Flood that we've seen on past dev streams, Defense, Survival and so on. Now, these game modes will rotate following successful rounds of the Circuit, so one round of Survival, then it will switch to Defense and so on, all while the difficulty will be increasing. So, endless Warframe only missions that you're used to in an area called the Undercroft, not the Drifter only combat that's also coming with Duviri as well. So, Duviri's Circuit mode is a guaranteed way for you to farm certain Warframes, Arcanes, Augments and other items. It's going to be great for new players but also really good for you existing players as well, since the Steel Path version of the Circuit is where you will farm your new Incarnate adapters for those weapons, but on the normal path is where you will also get items that existing players can benefit from as well. Now for the normal Circuit mode, each week players will get the option to choose between 3 pathways to go down, 3 Warframes that they can farm simply by selecting that Warframe. Whichever you pick will lock you into that pathway for the remainder of the week. You won't be able to change it. And each week a new selection of 3 paths or Warframes will be on offer. Now, like I said at the start, kind of like a mini weekly battle pass if you will. Now these pathways will have the components for that selected Warframe that you chose, like the chassis system and helmet, but not the resources needed to actually build those components. Those resources you're going to need to farm out in normal start chart missions. If all Warframes can show up in rotation here, with the exception of quest frames, then this could be a really great way for you to bypass some of the really crappy RNG that you can get for trying to farm some of these components. But also it's going to be a great way for you to get a second version of that Warframe and then feed it to the helmet for its subsumed ability. I wouldn't personally expect quest frames to show up here, and I'm kind of hoping it's not just Warframes that we would see as being the beginner or the original set of frames dating back to 7, 8, 9 years ago, like Trinity, Loki, Ember Frost and so on, but we're going to have to wait and see. Now the normal Circuit pathway, however, will also have augments for that Warframe as well as Arcanes and Aura mods on top of it. So it's a guaranteed Arcane farm as well. Probably the older Arcanes, but Arcanes nonetheless. Now for me, the big thing about this is more about actual direction, since I've got most of this stuff already. Especially for new players who are choosing Duviri as their starting point. If you could go back in time to when you first started playing Warframe for the first time, imagine if you had an actual pathway to follow with rewards that you wanted to get your hands on, instead of having to ask in a Discord or general chat or on the forums what you should farm next or what you should do next. This is going to give you actual direction, so it's making things a little bit easier for new players, which is sorely needed in Warframe. Now, the Steel Path version of the Circuit, like I said, is where you will get your Incarnate weapon adapters, the Incarnate Genesis system, which you're able to choose 2 out of these 5 weapons that will be on offer. Again, you only get to pick 2 every week, and you will be locked into that choice until the week is over, and then they're going to rotate for the following week, so make sure and choose wisely. You will need 1 adapter per weapon, because remember, some weapons have multiple different variants of them, so whether they're Wraith versions or they're Prime versions, you will need 1 adapter for each variant. So a Lato will need 1 and a Lato Prime will need a second one. We also know, based on the Reddit AMA recently and previous leaks, that they do plan to add more to the list of Incarnate Genesis weapons, so expect this to become a regular part of your weekly grind, since it's going to take several weeks to get all of the Incarnate adapters, not to mention the different variants, especially if they're going to add more on top of that as well, and especially if you want to add an adapter to a weapon that you really enjoy in order to increase its potential. Now, I think we've seen on a past dev stream that a Lato's Incarnate form gave off a ricochet effect where its bullets would kind of split and bounce between targets, so similar to beam weapons like the Atomos but with bullets instead. Remember again that Duviri is a roguelite game mode, which means having to choose between a selection of Warframes and weapons at the start of every run, and also decrees or boons which you will gain throughout that run and apparently will increase your power to extreme levels. And for the Circuit mode, apparently this is going to be a great way for you to also level items that you might own. but have managed to get them on rotation during the start of that run. So if you take a Warframe or a weapon at the start of that run that you own but you haven't leveled up yet, then Rebecca mentioned how they've really juiced up the experience earned for killing some of the new units while in the Undercroft. Now, whether this will be faster than leveling a Warframe or a weapon with Stealth Exterminates or ESO or whatever your go-to way of leveling items is, we don't know yet. But if we can run the circuit and level our items at the same time really quickly, then I guess 2 birds, 1 stone. So the circuit mode sounds really good. Loads of benefits, rewards, a mixture of game modes, randomness of decrees, increasing your power levels, and a really good way for you to level items as well. So just to recap, the circuit has 2 modes, normal and steel path. Normal will allow you to pick 1 Warframe path each week, which has 10 levels. Each level has a reward, arcanes, components, aura mods, augments, and then it will rotate the following week with 3 new frames for you to choose between. Again, you will get locked into whichever Warframe you choose at the start of that week until the following week. Now, the steel path version of the circuit will have 5 Incarnate weapon adapters for you to choose between, but you can only choose 2. And then you get locked in, and then it will rotate the following week to another 5 Incarnate adapters that you can choose from, again where you can only choose 2. And in the circuit mode, you fight down in the Undercroft, which is an area where you can use any of the Warframes that you have chosen at the start of that given roguelite spiral or run. The circuit will also be a rotation of multiple different endless missions like Void Flood, like Survival, like Defense, and it's going to rotate every couple of rounds. On top of that as well, it's going to be a great place or a great way for you to level existing Warframes and weapons that you own that might show up at the very start of that Duviri spiral or that Duviri run that you can choose while in Teshin's Cave. Now, it is worth noting as well that once you pick one of these pathways or one of these 3 Warframes on the normal circuit mode, like Rebecca and Megan showed off the other night on Prime Time, you're not going to have to use that Warframe for that run. This is just, like I said, mini battle pass where you pick one of those frames, and then once you jump into the Undercroft, or once you jump into that spiral, that a roguelite run, you're going to have to pick a different Warframe and weapons inside and then begin that spiral. And once you've leveled up all of those, I guess, missions, and you've leveled up that pathway down, then you get all of those items, the components, the chassis, the systems, and so on. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the circuit, whether you like the idea of earning rewards this way or not. Have a great day, have a great weekend. Remember, the update is only a few days away, and as always, thanks very much for watching.